Hi, I'm Jasma. I got 4 holiday cookie recipes for you. We're making maple pistachio shortbread, chocolate lattice cookie sandwiches, salted egg yolk butter biscuits, and ginger strawberry thumbprint cookies. We got the butter softened, the holiday decor is up, and the stand mixer is plugged in. So let's begin with the first cookie, maple pistachio shortbread. This is a freeze and slice shortbread, which means it's a really great recipe for you to make in advance. You can just prep the dough, throw it in the freezer, and then whenever you're ready, slice it up and bake it. To make the dough, add your softened unsalted butter into a stand mixer bowl and beat on medium speed while slowly streaming in the maple syrup. Scrape down the sides occasionally, and this will take a while before it's fully emulsified, but just be patient with it and keep mixing until it becomes a pale and fluffy mixture like this. Then in goes the vanilla extract, all-purpose flour, cornstarch, and a pinch of salt, as well as your raw pistachios. Gently mix this on low speed until everything is just combined and there are no dry bits left. You do not want to overmix a shortbread dough. Transfer this onto a sheet of plastic wrap and spread it out into a log so that we can roll this up. Loosely cover the ends and then wrap up the entire piece of dough until sealed. Then for the shaping, you can keep it like a log like this, so then when you slice it, it's going to turn into round cookies. I'm making them squared. So I'm gonna shape them using one of these. This is for sushi making. And with the help of a bamboo sushi mat, we can create straight edges on this roll of cookie dough with more ease. You want to just tightly squeeze it, then remove it from the mat, and then shape up the edges a little bit more by just flattening it on your work surface. Freeze your cookie dough for at least 30 minutes until it is hard enough for you to slice, and now is the time you can move on to preparing your next batch of cookies. Once the dough is chilled, I clean up the edges by rolling it with a rolling pin to make those corners more sharp, and then just remove it from the plastic and we can begin to slice this. For even slices, I always like to mark up the top before I actually make the slice. Now, how many pieces of shortbread you get out of each batch will vary depending on how thick you slice it. I get 18 pieces that are about half an inch thick. These don't really spread at all, so you don't have to worry about leaving too much space between each one on a lined baking tray. You want to bake these at 325 for 18 to 20 minutes until lightly golden brown. Next, we're making the chocolate lattice sandwich cookies with a Bailey's ganache filling. This one is perhaps the most complicated one out of all of the 4, but it is entirely worth all of the work because it's gorgeous and it's just so unique. Starting again with the softened and salted butter, we're adding some granulated sugar and a little bit of oil to it. And using a paddle attachment, we're going to beat this until pale and fluffy. And again, don't forget to scrape down the sides of the bowl every once in a while. Once it is loose and doubled in volume like this, we're ready to crack in 1 whole egg. Then continue mixing until the egg is fully incorporated with the butter and you can't really see any large grains of sugar left. The mixture should be really light and pale and it should be quite shiny. Now we're ready to add in the all-purpose flour, cocoa powder, salt, and although I forgot to film it, do not forget to add in your water. The water is very important. Mix this on low speed until the dry ingredients are incorporated. Then, unlike regular cookies, we're not going to stop here. We're going to let the mixture keep going for around 30 seconds more so that we can develop a little bit more gluten inside the dough. Transfer this onto a sheet of plastic wrap and knead it up some more until it forms a smooth ball. For your own convenience, spread this dough out into a thin rectangle. This not only helps it chill faster, but it also makes it easier for us to roll into a larger rectangle later on. Then we can seal it tightly in the plastic wrap. This dough is going to chill in the fridge for at least 1 hour or until it's stiff. This is also the time that you can move on to making your next cookie. Once this dough has chilled, it's still going to be quite soft and malleable, and this is what's going to allow us to form the lattice design. So I have a large cutting board here. Try to get one as large as you can because you're going to need all the space that you can get for these. Lightly dust the work surface before flipping the dough onto it so nothing sticks. With the rolling, you want to roll this out as thin as you can because with the lattice design, you're kind of already doubling the thickness of one sheet of dough. And this is also a sandwich cookie, which means you're also doubling that. so try to start as thin as possible. You want this rectangle to be longer lengthwise than widthwise, so that's what I'm focusing on more here. Also keep the dough moving. I like to flip it every once in a while just to make sure it's not sticking. Because we're rolling the dough so thin, you don't want to find out that it's completely stuck to the bottom by the end. My dough is roughly 1/2 centimeter thick. Here is my finger for reference. I have a pizza cutter here. This just makes the cutting of all of the strips a lot easier and it's a lot faster, but a knife totally works too. Begin by cutting the sheet of dough in half. Then create vertical strips in 1/2 of the dough and horizontal strips in the other half. Then just follow the process of creating a lattice design, but without leaving any gaps between the strips so that there are no holes within the dough. And the process is pretty simple, but it's surprisingly hard to describe using words only. So just watch what I'm doing here and you'll get the hang of it very quickly. Once the weaving is complete and you have an entire sheet of lattice cookie dough, grab your cookie cutter and begin punching out your cookies. This one is 2 inches in diameter, so I'm making 2-inch cookie sandwiches, and this recipe makes about 10 sandwiches total, but that number can vary. The dough will be quite soft at this point, so I actually like to let it stick to the insides of my cookie cutter to make it easier to transfer straight onto my baking tray lined with parchment paper. Bake these at 325 degrees Fahrenheit or 160 degrees Celsius for 9 to 10 minutes. While the cookies are cooling, I'm making the chocolate Bailey's ganache filling. I'm melting down my semi-sweet chocolate chips first, and then slowly introducing the Bailey's Irish cream into it and mixing until a smooth ganache is formed. Now I'm doing it like this instead of just microwaving it together like you would do with regular whipping cream, is because I don't want all of the Baileys to just evaporate in the microwave and lose out on all that flavor. But of course you can just use regular whipping cream and make it a regular ganache. Let the ganache cool down slightly until it has thickened like this, and then we can place a dollop of it in between 2 cookies to sandwich them together. Out of all 4 cookies in this video, this is the only one that I would say you don't want to eat them straight away because the texture of it is so much better once you let the ganache sit for a while and set completely. Next, we're making salted egg yolk biscuits. These are really simple, but they have this depth and richness to it that is added by the salted egg yolks that just sets them apart from regular butter cookies. This is a piped cookie, so after you make the dough, you pipe it and bake it straight away, but it is really quick to put together. The softened butter and icing sugar goes in the stand mixer bowl and it's gonna whip until it becomes almost white in color. You really want to get this nice and fluffy. And in the meantime, finely grate the salted egg yolks so that they can evenly incorporate into the cookie dough. Salted egg yolks may not be a very common ingredient in your baking repertoire, but you can find this in any Chinese grocery store. Add this to the butter and sugar mixture along with the milk and keep mixing until it is fully incorporated and almost dissolved into the butter. Add the all-purpose flour and cornstarch and mix on low speed. As soon as there are no dry bits left, stop mixing. These biscuits are supposed to melt straight in your mouth, so you do not want to overdevelop that gluten. Prepare a piping bag and fit it with a large star tip. This dough is a little bit stiff, so you don't want to use a star tip that is too fine in detail or you're going to have a very hard time piping it out. Fill out the bag with all of your dough, then pipe it into whatever design you want onto a lined baking tray. If the dough is too stiff and you have any trouble breaking it off, you can use a butter knife to help you out. And based on the size that I am piping these, I usually make around 20 to 24 of these biscuits. Bake these off at the same temperature for 15 to 20 minutes. If you find them getting a little too brown, cover it with a sheet of foil until it is fully baked. Lastly, we're making the ginger strawberry thumbprint cookies. These are quite the classic, and you can play with the flavors a lot. These are scooped cookies, which means that they are prepared and baked straight away. One last time, cream together the butter and sugar until pale and fluffy and doubled in volume. Of course, scraping down the sides occasionally, even if I don't show it. And then we are able to add in the all-purpose flour, cornstarch, spices of your choice, add some salt, and a little bit of milk, then mix on low speed until a dough has formed. For the portioning of these cookies, I'm using a mini ice cream scoop. This holds a little over 1 tablespoon of dough, and each one of my cookies weighs about 20 grams each. And based on those measurements, my recipe is going to make 18 thumbprint cookies. So I have a brush here, and the end has this perfect shape. And this is what I use to create the indent in each cookie, which is gonna hold the jam. And you can totally use your thumb to do this because they are thumbprint cookies, but I like them a little more uniformed. Once you're done, simply fill up the little crevices with some strawberry jam. You can also use any jam of your choice. Try not to overfill them because they will bubble up a little bit in the oven and you don't want them to seep out of the cookie crevice. And this is going to bake for 20 to 25 minutes or until golden brown. And those are my 4 holiday cookies for this cookie box. You can grab all of these recipes on my blog, jasmafusioncuisine.com. If you're on the hunt for more holiday cookies, be sure to check out my holiday box from last year. And stay tuned for more recipes to come.